Okay, this next video is day number 10, which is the persuasive terminology quiz. Obviously, I'm not counting it as a quiz. I'm not collecting it. You don't have to send it to me because, it defeats the purpose. You could just look up the answers. But I did feel it was important to go over it just to make sure that you are familiar with and understanding all the terminology that this unit encompasses. So I'm just going to work my way down this way. So number one, an anecdote. The correct answer there is C. And an anecdote is a brief story designed to provide a real life example that pertains to the topic in an effort to persuade the reader. And we saw that in a couple of the articles. It's just a little story that the author tells in order to kind of like pull the reader in and make the topic more relevant to them. Number two is arguments, and that's E. It's the reasons that the writer states to support his or her claim. So the claim or stance is the overarching position on the topic. So with, schools, it was, either that, we should have extended summer vacations or summer vacations should be shortened. With the vaccine issue, the stance and claim is either you think that parents have the right to choose or everybody should be required to be vaccinated. But the arguments are all of those things that I highlighted underneath. They're all the reasons why the person feels the way they feel. It supports the stance. Number three is a bias. And I know we talked about this word in To Kill a Mockingbird. A bias is a prejudice in favor of or against something. And so I had said, in a previous lecture that with the summer vacation issue, all of you have a bias because you personally are a student right now and that would affect you. I had given an example in class once about if I owned a summer camp, I would have a bias. I would want summer vacation to happen because if I'm a summer camp owner and there's no summer vacation, I don't have a business anymore. So it's really what makes, any prejudices or anything that exists in your life that would make you lean one way or the other. The next one, claim or stance, is A, which is the position that the writer takes. It states what the writer is trying to persuade. So that's that overarching stance on whatever the issue is. Number 5 are the counter arguments. That's the other side's arguments. So the arguments that support the counterclaim. So if you say that, summer vacation should be kept the way it is, the counterclaim is no, summer vacation is too long. The counter arguments would be all those reasons why summer vacation is too long. Number 6 is the counterclaim. That's D. It's the other side of the issue, the opposite of what the writer is trying to say. So it's the other side. It's the other stance. So the claim is where you stand on the issue. The arguments are the reasons that support your claim. Breaking it down on the bottom. And by the way, all of the answer keys are on my website under school closure resources. So if you're having trouble seeing it from here, you can print the answer keys or view them for yourself. So next, number 7, the emotional appeal, is C, an attempt to persuade someone by appealing to his or her emotions. So it makes you, makes you want to agree with somebody because they make you feel bad or they pull on your heartstrings and they try to convince you of something by appealing to your emotions, whether they be anger, whether they be fear, whether they be sympathy. It makes you it tries to convince you. Number 8 is expository, and that's E. That's F. The writer presenting both sides of the issue. And so every article that I've done, I've labeled for you expository or persuasive. And so the expository pieces are the pieces where the author doesn't give an opinion. It's not written for that purpose. The purpose is to give you both sides of the issue so that you can decide on your own. The next one, persuasive, on the other hand, D. The writer does present information in an attempt to persuade readers. A persuasive text has a very clear stance, and the author's goal in writing it is to convince you of their stance. Number 10, rebuttal, is the person's response to the counter argument, and often it does begin with but. So, there's the argument that vaccines are thought to be dangerous. The rebuttal is, but there's no data to back that up. Both articles do say that there was that one study from 1998 that linked vaccines to autism. However, there's no proof that study was accurate. In fact, it's actually been proven wrong. Number 11 are rhetorical questions, and that's B. They're questions that are posed to readers for the purpose of making them think, but an answer is not expected. A lot of authors begin with rhetorical questions, they end with rhetorical questions, and the only purpose there is to get the reader to really think about the issue so that they might be kind of convinced to agree with the author. And lastly, statistics and data, that's A. They're numbers that are arrived at based on research and surveys. If you want to try to convince people of something, you have to have statistics and data, because if you have that, the numbers don't lie, and that could be very convincing as you try to make your case. The next part of the quiz asked you to read an article about animal research, and you can tell just based on the title, animal research and torture are not the same thing. This is a persuasive article. Just based on that title, the author here, I can tell, is going to argue that, animal research is not torture. The author is going to argue that there are valid reasons why animal research is so important. So let's look at the questions. So question number 13 there asks you what type of nonfiction piece this is, and you should have had A. It is persuasive. It's not expository. Expository is when the author doesn't really have a stance on the issue. They're just giving you both sides of the issue, whereas this one is very clearly persuasive. Question number 14 says, which of the following is the author's stance on the issue? Now, what we were looking for here is that you can differentiate between a stance and an argument. A, B, and C, well, A is a counter argument. B and C are both arguments. The only answer that really is where the author explains where, his or her stance is, which is that animal testing is something that's necessary, is D. And if you look at that, it says animal experimentation is not something to be celebrated, but it is required to advance the fields of biology and medicine and ultimately to improve the lives of humans and animals alike. That's the stance. The author is saying that, it might not be glamorous, but you have to do it. If you want to save human lives, animal testing is an imperative thing. So that's the author's stance. Number 15 says to read the following line. It says, opponents, which are people who are against something, of animal testing also seem to be concerned that scientists are going rogue, doing whatever they like with those animals on which they experiment. So it asks you what that is. That is a counter argument. It's the other side. So if this person is arguing that animal experimentation is necessary because it saves lives, a possible counter argument is that some people feel animal experimentation is not regulated, that you have scientists when they go rogue, meaning like they just go on their own without regulations, they do whatever they want, and they're just kind of going crazy on these animals. That's a counter argument. It's what the other side is trying to argue as a reason why animal experimentation should not be done. So I'm not going to go through the whole article with you, but you can see on my website under school closures, I did post my notes. So if you wanted to take a look, and again, I kept to the color-coded scenario where the arguments in favor of animal testing were yellow, and then all of the counter arguments, all of the reasons why some people feel animal testing is not good are in purple. But you see that there's a rebuttal after all of them, because the author's purpose here was to convince you that animal testing is something necessary. So he'll mention the counter arguments, but he will make sure to provide a rebuttal to those counter arguments so that readers will be convinced in the necessity for animal testing.